evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Karis May, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is Squadron Leader Rob Saunders. We warmly welcome the family of Gunner Eric Burgess, whose story will be read shortly. We are honoured to acknowledge His Excellency Mr. Cholonhu Batlai, Ambassador of Mongolia to Australia, and Mr. Tirshis Dawag Dendev, Member of Parliament of Mongolia, Chair of Economic Standing Committee. We welcome all the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony from around Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by visitors and family. But to commence this evening's service, I invite you all to stand and join in singing the national anthem. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed at the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and operations for over more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to gunner Eric Burgess. Eric Burgess was born on the 28th of July, 1895 in Geelong, Victoria, the last of 7 children born to Ernest and Elizabeth Burgess. Burgess grew up in Geelong and attended Highton State School, serving for 2 years with the senior cadets attached to the 69th Infantry Regiment. After finishing school, he moved to Melbourne to take up a job as a clerk with AMP. He continued to serve in the militia, transferring to the 64th Infantry Regiment. At the outbreak of the First World War, Burgess enlisted for service but was discharged soon after due to illness. Undeterred, he enlisted again in May 1915 and was allotted to the 2nd Reinforcements of the 23rd Battalion. In July, he embarked from Melbourne aboard the transport ship Demosthenes, joining the 23rd Battalion in Egypt for embarking for Gallipoli. The 23rd Battalion arrived on Gallipoli in early September and was sent to man the trenches at Lone Pine. The fighting was so intense here that the battalion alternated with the 24th Battalion on a daily basis. On the 21st of November, Burgess was wounded by a piece of shrapnel from a Turkish bomb, which ended his time in Gallipoli. He was evacuated to Malta for treatment and recovery. It wasn't until March 1916 that he rejoined his battalion, which had returned to Egypt after the end of the Gallipoli campaign. By the end of March, the 23rd Battalion had sailed to France. After an introduction to trench warfare in the nursery sector in April, it moved south to take part in the Battle of Pozières in July and Mooncay Farm in August, where it suffered almost an entire turnover of original battalion members due to death, wounds and illness. Burgess managed to survive these horrors, and by the end of July, he had been promoted to temporary corporal. In September, Burgess was claimed from the infantry by his brother, Joseph, who had arrived in France in June and was serving with the 53rd Battery of the 14th Field Artillery Brigade. Burgess joined his brother in October and was posted to the same gun crew. The brothers served together during winter and in the early months of 1917 were involved in supporting the Allied advance to the Hindenburg Line. In early April, Eric Burgess was detached to another gun crew and badly wounded when a shell fired from his gun exploded prematurely, sending shrapnel back through the gun shield. After surgery in France, he was evacuated to England to recover. His recovery went well, and at the end of June, having been posted to a depot unit, he went absent without leave for 5 days. He was given 7 days field punishment number 2 and fined 13 days pay. After brief illness in July, Burgess returned to France and rejoined his brother and his unit towards the end of August. Over the following months, the brothers were almost constantly in action as their battery fired in support of the Allied operations during the third EPO campaign, including the successful operations to capture Menin Road and Polygon Wood. On the 4th of October, the Burgess brothers were at their gun firing in support of the Australian infantry attacking Grudzinda Ridge. During the day, the battery came under fire from a German artillery, and a shell landed in the brothers' gun pit, detonating the ready ammunition and killing Eric, Joseph, and their crewmates instantly. The brothers were buried side by side in the Hut Cemetery at Dikkelbusch in Belgium. Eric was 22, Joseph was 25. Eric Burgess' name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, among more than 60,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. A photograph of his headstone is displayed beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Gunner Eric Burgess, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Could you all please stand for the ode and last post?
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them. Lest we forget.
We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man, lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor-tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be